I mean, we met a lot of women today and also men in the law school. And, we have an insight that many students who actually learn law and women, they stall their careers not because of lack of talent or lack of intent. They do it because their families consider it as a taboo if they're found in courts and police stations. So how do we drive this change of fear of perception to pride with purpose in our society?
So I think the biggest change that we're trying to do and what we're trying to tackle, especially with Change the Soch, is what? Change the thinking.
Yes.
Change the thinking starts with where do you have that change? It has to happen in society, right? Now the challenges that they talked about today, and we're in a law college, right? I mean, these are students that are trying to make societal changes, right? If they can't overcome or they have issues around these changes, that change has to occur at home. That change has to start at home. And that change only is going to start with education. It is only going to start with making sure that they understand that, so what? If you are in a tough environment, that's where, I mean, how many women officers do we see today? That happened, that change occurred. That took a good 20, 30 years for that to happen. And we have to start somewhere. And I think that's what's important, right?
Also, heard this so many times. It's not my mother tongue, but माझा काम नाही आहे, माझा नवऱ्याचा काम आहे. I'm not wanting to do this because, of course, there is somebody in the house who will take care of this. How do we change the Soch even on this front?
See, I think to a certain extent, sometimes, women are their own worst enemies, right? And that very statement that you made, right? Hey, माझा काम नाही आहे, हे माझ्या नवऱ्याचं काम आहे. Meaning, this is not my work, this is my husband's work. Says who? Right? You got to change that thinking yourself, right? Who says this is your husband's job? And why should it be his job? You should be taking responsibility for your own financial well-being and your own financial independence. So it is not just changing the thinking in society. Women also have to make that change themselves. And what is heartening to see, what is heartening to hear, especially when we're talking to younger women, that it's not that they don't want to do it. The difference now we're seeing is that not only do they want to do it, some of them are fighting to do it. And that is actually very, very gratifying to see.
We also spoke to the teachers and the principals of the college and school, and they tell us that sometimes women are even brought in when there is suddenly a crisis in the family, a financial crisis, or there's a need for an additional income. And as soon as the family income is stable, they're asked to lay off and say, get back to the home duties, get domesticated.
It is the reality, unfortunately, right? Now, we can debate here, honestly, for the longest time that is this right, is this wrong? That's just the society that we live in, and that's exactly the change that we need to bring, right? So why shouldn't women at that point say that it is not the family's decision to say that the crisis is over and therefore now you no longer need to work. You should be independent on your own. And it is not something that you're just saying that, okay, I don't trust the family or I don't do any of that. It is that you are intelligent, you are educated yourself. Why should you not take it to this next step and be financially independent as well?
Yes.
Right? So this is not trying to, yes, it is trying to break cultural norms to a certain extent, but these are healthy changes that we need to bring in, right? It's not, think about the number of women where all of a sudden the husband passes away. And how many stories have we heard where they have no idea what the financial situation of the family is? A lot of times they end up with, there's a ton of debt now, right? So what I think needs to happen is, at the very least, you need to be aware, right? You need to be able to participate. I'm not saying you need to change who makes the decisions, but be knowledgeable enough to participate in that conversation, right? And that's what's important.
When we started with this campaign, Change the Soch, and a lot of times when I briefed agencies, I briefed the team, everybody said this is a woman campaign. So your target audience, whom we need to target, on YouTube, Instagram, are all women. Whether they could be women farmers, students, entrepreneurs, people in the army, but women as a cohort. But this is larger than that. This is a message for the society. And the message that we need to implement starts from our home. In our offices, in our homes, from the living room to the boardroom, let's bring the Change the Soch for the larger cause and for the larger benefit of the society.
So let's take that one step either further or just take a little bit of a reset there, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about Change the Soch, yes, we need to get women to start thinking about how they need to plan for their financial independence. But changing society requires both parts of society to change. That's why today we had a lot more men, young men, that were in the audience. And it is important for them to also acknowledge that, this change needs to happen. Because if you're talking about a family unit, at the end of the day, there's both. There's a husband and there's a wife. The wife may decide, I want to be financially independent and I want to try and learn more and all that. But if you do not have a supportive husband, that becomes a challenge. That becomes a reason for conflict. Right? So we need to have our own young men change the Soch.
Yes.
We need to have our older men change their Soch and allow to get that Soch change into the family.
Yes.
Right? And that is a societal change that we need to do.
Yes.
Now, whether we like it or not, change is not going to happen with just one side. And it's not going to happen overnight. But it's not going to happen with just one side deciding that we need to make that change. And that is why it is not a women-centric program. This would be an absolute disservice to if we were to say that Change the Soch is for women. It is not for women.
Yes.
When you think about, did women decide that they don't want to be at the table? No, society decided that, right? Cultural norms decided that. So we have to change those cultural norms. We have to change the way society thinks. So this is not a women issue, and it absolutely is. It would be a complete disappointment if this turned out to be called a women's issue. This is not a women's issue. This is an India issue. This is a Bharat issue. This is a societal issue. And if we don't make these changes, we are leaving a huge opportunity for us to achieve Viksit Bharat. And that's half the population that we're not touching.
So true. This was far more than an episode for us. Episode 11 from Nanded. But this is leaving us with more thoughts than we could ever imagine. Thank you for watching us. I'm not going to ask you to support. I'm going to ask you to collaborate with us. Tell us how can we bring about this change of Soch in the society for the larger cause. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.